I was a waiter before. I worked in restaurants before. I worked as a dog walker before, and I work as a cleaner before. And all the experience actually sort of come back to me for my future job. So I don't think people need to worry too much if they are not doing what they wanted to do in the future now. In order to survive, it means that they failed their dream. But you see what you're doing now to keep you survive, but on the side, you always keep chasing that dreams.
Hey everyone. This is the podcast Strong and Insecure, Stark und Unsicher is the original title in German, with me, Kerstin, from Personal Skill Tree. This is another English-speaking episode, and I'm very happy to welcome this great international guest today. Colin Chee is the founder and artistic director of Never Too Small, a media company dedicated to small footprint design and living. We will speak about his job, how it is connected to his purpose, and how he got to where he is today. Are you ready to dive in? Enjoy listening. It's not too late. Yours, Kerstin. All right, a warm welcome to this episode of Stark and Unsicher, Strong and Insecure. Today I'm very happy to welcome Colin Chee. He is the creator and artistic director of Never Too Small. And Never Too Small is a YouTube channel. You can find it on YouTube. It features small homes with great designs. And I had a look into some videos. They are awesome. They feel great. I felt like I'm standing in the middle of those homes and can really feel how it feels like to live there. And Colin is here to tell us about his life and about Never Too Small. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you for having me, Kirsten.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you take the time for this interview. All right, Colin, so Never Too Small. Do you just want to tell us a little bit in your own words? What is it about? How did you start it and why?
So Never Too Small is really started as a YouTube channel. We trying to featuring beautifully and cleverly designed small spaces by architect and interior designers, and to show our audience how through smart design and cleverly ideas we can transform the way we live in small spaces. And also indirectly, we can also transform the way we live and interact with our growing cities, and tackling the urban overcrowding issues globally, and then also improving quality of life. Yeah.
Right, that's amazing. And yeah, you mentioned you started out as a YouTube channel, and what is the current state of the project, if you want to call it that?
So it grows a bit. Since then, we have started our websites as well about 2.5 years ago, and we have a book published. It's called Reimagining Small Space Living, featuring 30 projects, our favorite projects, carefully curated by us. And also earlier this year, we organized our first public exhibitions during the Melbourne Design Week, and we involved 6 designers to come up with 6 small multifunctional small space furniture for us. And also, hopefully in the future, we're going to start some TV shows.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. So
It spins out a bit as a hobby for me. And yeah, I'm quite grateful. And we have a team of 8 of us working full-time and also part-time, and also about 8 others collaborators from all over the world to help us film the episodes from different countries all around the world. And I'm very grateful to have them as a support, because I can't do so many things by myself. And yeah, it's great to have a team.
yeah. So did I understand that correctly, that you started out by yourself and then more people came on, and now there's this team of several people who also are employed and work full time?
Yeah, that's right. And well, it started as a side project, and back in the days, about how I was Never Too Small now, nearly 5 years old now. So before Never Too Small, I also worked as a full-time video editor. So my background is from filmmaking, and I'm always the person that behind the camera and also behind the computer doing the editings and tell stories through editing. And my boss back in the days, his name was James McPherson. He just came up to everyone in the office and said, if you guys have any sort of ideas or project you want to work on the side during your full-time job, feel free to do it as a side project for the company. So I thought, well, I always have this idea, trying to make videos about small space living, and also because I live in a small space myself, and it would be nice to involve with interview architects and designers, a bit like you, to find inspirations and ideas and get some free advice from them to how to decorate my own space. And at the time I thought I watched a lot of YouTube videos to get some inspiration. And I thought, well, there's not really a YouTube channels that focus on really beautifully, carefully curated designs for small spaces and also living. And then if there are some, they can be quite academic, and the information is quite hard to digest. The editing style is not what I would hope for. And also the shooting style, I thought they don't really do a lot of justice to the design. And yeah, I thought I could do a better job, and why not I try to do something different for the YouTube channel. And I did. And after 4 episodes, I tried the 4 episodes, and then I put it on the side for a bit, but somehow it grows very quickly, get a lot of tractions. And then it grows from there. And then my boss back then, also my business partner now, his name is James. And James just said to me, why don't you start making more videos of Never Too Small? And I thought, well, why not? I kind of enjoy doing it. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I personally feel like it's a necessary approach to have for small living in the city, because Melbourne itself is a city that really spread out with big houses to the suburbs. But the city itself is an exciting place to live, especially city of Melbourne. We are very vibrant and lots of cultures, lots of good food. And I just think that we have so many good amenities and public transport or retails all focused in the city of Melbourne. Why we keep pushing out to live in the biggest place? I keep getting emails from different designers as well, saying how they look at small living differently now in Australia. And I hope to take these exhibition models to different countries as well, to get the designers to come up with different multifunctional design for small space living, hopefully in the future.
Yeah. That's a great success story. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's really inspiring, and also what you do is, in my opinion, amazing. It's exactly what we need, what our world needs. And you mentioned now that your personal interest is a lot about interior design, right? And you really love it, and you yourself live in a small space. And what I can really hear when you're talking about the whole project is this are these intersections that you create between design, sustainability, and then the individual level, but also the I don't know, I would call it macro level probably, like really thinking about what should a city look like, and what should a city look like so that we can still live in it in the future, 10 years from now, 20 or 30 years from now. And this is something that, I guess many people don't think about, right? I mean, it's great to live in the here and now, but still, what happens tomorrow? We should always consider that. And I feel that you have a very practical approach to it, and then it feels like you just do it. How does it feel to you? Like, have you always had these ideas in your mind, and then are you a quick action taker?
I guess I always like crazy ideas, and I think small living should be fun, not as constrained. And since I was young, I kind of the person that I have an idea and then I would try out, and then there are so many ideas that didn't work out in my life. Not necessarily means that in the career wise, even my hobby wise, or I used to think maybe I wanted to be a musician or I want to be a feature filmmakers, but they didn't work out.
Right.
But it's not necessarily means that I feel in that sense, but it sort of enrich the experience that I bring it back to what my current state is. Because when I was a kid, my real dream back in the days was to be a classical musician, a contemporary classical composer, which is where I grew up in Malaysia. That's where I was born. Musician is not necessarily considered as a career in the days when I grew up. For people, it's more like a hobby, And then, but luckily, I have a father that's very supportive of my hobby. I wanted to learn the piano, and then he let me learn the piano. My mom is like, "Oh, why don't you be doing better at school, academically, and be a doctor or engineer like your sisters or your brothers?" But no, I didn't. I was more like a rebellious one, the black sheep in the family that wanted to do my own way. And somehow my mom sort of gave up. In fact, when I finished my high school, I really wanted to study music, but last minute, I somehow changed my mind and decided to want to be a graphic designer. And so my father didn't. He was a bit disappointed because he thought I was quite talented in my music aspects, but somehow I changed to become to study graphic design at uni. And then that's back in the uni days, that's when I was exposed to multimedia design. That's when I realized that, I can make videos, and videos combine my other passion, which is photography and also music. Video is sound and visual combined together. And I thought that's great because I can do my sound, my music, and then put it into the videos and then combine them together and make music videos. So back in the unis, I really like to make music videos. And somehow editing, it requires certain skill like rhythm, and also editing is a storytelling. It's a bit like playing a music. It has the build up and then it has to go down. The whole, I don't know how to put it in words, but it has a phrase almost. And because my music background, I pick up editing pretty quickly back in the uni days. And then my lecturer actually noticed my talent in that. And so he asked me to do videos as my final year project, which I did. And that time when I switched from graphic design to multimedia design, I didn't tell my parents. They didn't know I changed my course. They just keep giving me uni fees, and then I went and pay my uni. And I told my sister, I say, if to change from graphic design to multimedia, my mom is going to be, angry. And my sister said, just don't tell her, just change it. Take the money and pay for the school fees. As long as you go to uni and get your certificate, they wouldn't know. So I did that.
Right.
And so in my diploma years, the second year of uni, I won a National Video Awards back in Malaysia. So my face appeared on newspaper and in TV as well. And then my mom called me and said, "I thought you studied graphic design. Why do you go and make videos?"
Oh wow.
and then she was like, "Oh, all right, well, looks like you've done well. So I can't do anything now. It's too late." Yeah. And after that, after finish my second year uni, I moved to Melbourne to finish my final year. And this is when I was exposed to even more different types of design and different types of films and videos. I find that there's certain limitation when studying art and design in Malaysia. They're not as much varieties there compared to Australia. And when I came here, I happened to meet another lecturer who's really opened my eyes into doing research. Back in the uni in Malaysia, I didn't know how to do research properly, or I kept thinking if I'm doing films, I just have to do studies in films. But over here, the lecturer is saying to me, if you want to do films, you have to look at other things as well. Like you go to galleries, to museums, you read different types of book, not necessarily mean about filmmaking. Filmmaking is a technical things, but other things that inspire your way of making films. And and then he asked me to read different types of books, which I did. And this lecturer, he was very nice. My final year uni, the first semester, there's 2 semesters in the final year. So the first semester, he just said, you don't have to do your assignment. All you ever do is to read books and tell me what books do you read. He taught me how to do research properly. And I was quite lucky. And then I did. And then for my final year projects, I really just did a very random experimental videos, which is exploring about memories. And it was an experimental videos. And then for that, I also won quite a few awards from the videos. And I realized that, wow, there's much more. Filmmaking is not about technical things. It's not about a story, but it's about the influences that come from different ways. And I hope you understand what I'm talking about. It's getting into quite deep here.
No, I think I do. I mean, it's of course it's always to listen to it from the outside is always different than really living it, right? But well, first of all, congratulations on all of your awards. It seems like you are really doing great work, and
I guess it's a bit like your podcast. Your podcast interview all kind of people from different fields, and then you get the stories, and then it inspire you in a different ways. Not necessarily like every stories, they take a different journey, and then because of different people's stories that comes to you, you hear their journeys, and then you take bits and pieces, and then you make your own journey with the knowledge you gain. So it's a bit like that for me. And I think what I wanted to say, I can't remember now.
it probably comes back. Yeah, it's so interesting to me because I can find myself in some aspects when it comes to the creative, being the black sheep and being the creative one, right? And also looking at it from the perspective of society, right? Not only family, but also society. So the creative ones are often the ones considered to be a little bit odd, a little bit weird. And then there's always the question, how do you make money from that, right? I mean, we need to pay for a living, we need to buy our food, and we cannot just do whatever we want and live from our hobbies. And so what you did and what you do every day, I think many people would love to do that, be creative and live their passion, and at the same time make money with it and be able to live from it. So I guess my question is, what do you think is part of that success? So what do you do in addition? You're not just editing videos and then publishing them to YouTube, but there's a lot that you do. Can you pin that down? So what is involved as well in your job?
So when I first started after uni, I didn't get the dream job I wanted. So I really wanted to get into video industry pretty much straight away, but I ended up doing multimedia design for a share activist website, and it's part of the journalism thing. And then, but I gained a lot of experience in editing interviews for them to put on their news website. And then I also learned about the art of interviewing from my previous boss, my first job in Melbourne. And then even though that's the job I didn't enjoy, not at all, I didn't enjoy many aspects of it because it's so dry. It's about shareholding, economies, and things like that. But from that, I learned a lot of different experience from it. And this experience that I gained, especially editing interview, that skills I gained from that, I applied today into my Never Too Small videos, or the documentary we make about small living and a small footprint. And also there are other random jobs that I did during my lifetime. All these experience come back and somehow encapsulate in the Never Too Small production, like my music, my music experience playing a piano and composing, somehow that also get into Never Too Small a bit, with the background music that I choose for the videos. They are all part of my passions or my personalities in there. And then I guess if people want to start out in life and then they feel like they straight away have to get into what they like, may not be practical at times. It depends, because like you say, we still need to make a living or something. But if you are a musician, you think that you need to make music and in order to survive and chase your dream. If you find it hard, maybe do other things, but on the side, always make your music for sure. It doesn't matter what you do. Maybe work in call centers or retail or other jobs. You might find your passion in other places. Your music might go into that. Or the other way around, your experience you get from the other places, it might come back to you. It might inspire your future music, And yeah, I would say life is sometimes can be shit, but it's the shit part. If you look at it in a good way, it's actually quite fun, because I waited before. I was a waiter before. I worked in restaurants before. I worked as a dog walker before, and I work as a cleaner before. And all the experience actually sort of come back to me for my future job. So I don't think people need to worry too much if they are not doing what they wanted to do in the future now. In order to survive, it means that they failed their dream. But you see what you're doing now to keep you survive, but on the side, you always keep chasing that dream. One day, the experience, you can move into that field that you want to chase. And just if you want to keep chasing your dream, just keep chasing it. Not necessarily that you have to chase it front on. You might just like walk on the side and look at it, and then get to it when the time is ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Right. Now, I would like to go into two directions now. One is a little bit still into your past, and then into Never Too Small again, and focus on really the content and what you're doing there. But before we get there, I would love to have one more look into how you grew up, actually. So you already mentioned you grew up in Malaysia. Now you live in Melbourne in Australia. And part of your studies were in Malaysia and part of your studies were in Australia. How did you grow up, and what do you remember like from your childhood?
From my childhood, my very first memory, I said it to my mom just last year. I said my first memory was I was in the cradle looking at the ceiling, and then that time my sister was playing the piano, and then I could see the shadow of the trees dancing in the afternoon on the ceiling. And then I pictured the music, the trees dancing to the music my sister played. That's my first memory. I think I probably was like 3 or 4 years old. Wow. Yeah. And my dad is someone who's really into BBC comedies, or he's more westernized kind of Oriental man. So he sort of he used to buy lots of Western cartoons to let us watch, and then one of the cartoons that my dad always asks us to watch is Disney cartoons, because he thinks that it's so classy in his field, because back in the days Disney cartoon used a lot of classical music in their productions, and then that's how I was exposed to classical music when I was a child. And then that's how I developed my passion in classical music. And then music is always in my life when I was a kid. It's not because my parents are musical. They are not at all. Just because I always watch the cartoon play over and over. Sometimes I'm not watching the cartoon, I'm listening to the music. That's what I really liked back in the days. And so music was a big part of my life. I was not very good at school at all. My mom used to need to lock the piano because I always wanted to play the piano when I was a kid. Oh. And she hated that because she always thought that I better I should do better at school. So, and yeah, I wasn't good at school. I was good at art, and then I was like, you know, even back in the high school day, I like to do stage productions with my friends, and then we used to organize little exhibition in the school to get some funding for the school and stuff like that. That was my childhood, really. And then my parents have 5 kids. I was the youngest one, and then the age difference between my first sibling is 13 years different. We have a huge age gap, and I was an accident, according to my mom, in fact. And then, yeah. And then she said, oh, she nearly aborted me when she found out she was pregnant. But somehow they decided to keep me. That's why I was a bit of a black sheep. And yeah, I didn't, I have a great childhood, I have to say. My parents, they are very typical Asian parents. They don't show a lot of affection to the kids, but the way they show affection to the kid is they give me the best education. They would give me, like my father, I never sort of hug or embrace my father at all. We hardly talk, but he always let me try whatever I want in my life. Like I want to learn the piano, and then he give me the money and say, oh, go and play the piano. And then I wanted to learn the violin, and then he would give me the money to buy the violin. In fact, I remember when I was 16 years old, I needed a new violin because when you get to grade 7, you need a better violin than just the beginner's violin. And it was really expensive. And I dared not to ask the money from my dad because it was about 5,000 ringgit. Back in the days, it's really expensive. And then I asked my mom to tell my dad that I need a new violin in order to do my examination. So my mom did. So the next morning when I woke up ready to go to school, I saw a check on my study table to buy the new violin. And my dad didn't say anything. And then when my dad came back from work that day, I said to dad, oh, thank you for the check. And then he said, yeah, okay, that's it. I remember he said that to me. Wow. And I always felt like, oh, my dad is such a typical Asian traditional dad who doesn't really show much affection. But when he passed away in 2015, and I went back and helped my mom to clean up my father's stuff. And then we opened his locker. And then I found that he kept, we have 5 children. He had 5 children, and then each child has their own folder. And then in my folder, I found out that he kept a piano book of Schumann. And then he kept my first payslip, and he kept my passport photos, and then he kept my piano examinations certificate. I didn't even keep them. I'm like, okay, done, I'll throw away, but he kept them. So he kept the memory. He thinks it's important for him to remember me. And then that's how I find that, oh, that's how he showed his love to the child. He's very conservative, he's very quiet, but he support us with the best things. And then after he passed away, I said to my mom, I don't want any inheritance from my dad. My mom should keep it because my dad would give me the best things I need in my life. Now I'm established, I'm independent, I can do everything by myself, and so my mom should need more financial support than I do. So yeah. Yeah, that's how my childhood is, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's a very I'm missing the English words now. Now only German words come into my mind, right? That's how it works with emotions, right? Right. And yeah, and you already told us. So you play the piano and the violin, right? And so when we watch some videos of Never Too Small, that means that also sometimes it's your music playing in the background then?
It's not. I never use my music in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the music that is very reflecting to my music style.
Right. Okay. I see. Yeah. All right, and now, yeah, you already said so. The next step of Never Too Small is TV shows, and you're currently producing a documentary. Is that right?
That's right. We because when we look into how our future city is, and then we realize that one third of the waste in Australia coming from the construction, which is a huge waste, and then we tap into um, you know the way we build our buildings for centuries is through metals, concrete, and glass. And then is there any other ways that we can build our buildings and also furnish our house with? And then waste is such a big problem now, global warming issues and climate, change, what do you call it? Yeah, climate change and things like that. And then so we're starting to draw into what other designers around the world can do um, with their skills and ideas and knowledge, can transform the waste into something that we can build our future city with, or furnish our future houses with, homes with. And then we found out we get a grant from Screen Australia to produce 6-part documentary series featuring designers and innovators that can turn waste into something that we can build our houses with. And then we are in the middle of production. So there would be 3 designers from Europe, and then 3 others innovators and designers from Australia. And this documentary should come out at the end of the year this year. And, we have designers that can upcycle discarded furniture into something really great, into an art piece, and how they can use simple ideas to transform the wooden pallets into chairs. The ideas can also be applied, it's also used in other developed countries for them to build their own chairs, and also people who turn plastic waste into building panels and tiles and kitchen bench tops. And also we have people who relooking how we should take down our existing buildings. Instead of demolish everything and throw it into the landfill, should we take them apart, put them into catalogs as existing materials and reuse them? And yeah, it's going to be an exciting series, and really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really amazing, and I'm also looking forward to it. I'm definitely gonna watch it. Um, and yeah, and you call yourself artistic director, right? And what it seems to be to me that you there's so much that you do, and you already said your job is behind the camera, and also in the it used to be in editing, and what is it now? It seems like that you also have this this overview, and you create the creative concepts, and you think of who to involve. Is that how it is, or what do you do exactly?
For the productions at the moment, well, for a while now, it's handled by my producers, Lindsay and also Luke. And then I'm now more of a person who's trying to find the direction for Never Too Small, because last time we really focused on small space design, and then now we sort of venture into city planning, and now we are venture into sustainable design. So sustainability is the aspects that I'm really focused on. I've been reading a lot of books about it, and then hopefully that's the things that Never Too Small going to go into, because I think there's no other ways for us to build our cities but to build sustainably, and then there's no way we can just keep getting new resources and then put into our future city living. We have to use whatever we have now and make our cities better. And we have so many, like, by talking to the people, the designers and the innovators, when we're making the documentaries in Europe and also in Australia, we shouldn't call waste as waste anymore, because waste, it somehow sounds cheap and useless. We should call those as existing materials. When you call them materials, they have a value on it. And then like plastic, they because plastic itself, we usually, when we throw away, we call it waste, and they become no values, and they are ready to go to landfill, and pollute our environment. But if we see plastic or use plastic as existing materials, we can take them and transform into something else, like something useful and beautiful. And so where was I again? What we were talking about? I lost my thought. And so my role is to sort of convince my team members and Never Too Small teams, family, to sort of align with my vision. And then my other goals now, well, is to move forward into how to establish Never Too Small as a voice in advocating sustainable design as well, because we are more advocating about small space living, but small space itself is a sustainable way of living, because when you live in small space, that means you use less energy, less material, and everything just come together with more sustainable. And so sustainable design, like furniture design, building materials, innovations, and design, that's what I think Never Too Small should venture into. And then how can we design furnitures that can be made by you or me, myself? The design can be simple, and then we can do it ourselves. That's another thing that I hope we can do as well. And then, because a lot of people look at Never Too Small, it's like, oh, the more expensive version of small living. But for me, it's more like the ideas that's very important, because you can take ideas and then improvise it yourself to suit your own budgets and your need. And hopefully it's the same as the furniture design. If designers can design the furniture that is so simple but clever and useful and beautiful, and then if someone see it and then they can take the ideas and make it themselves, that is like, for me, it's the ultimate goal of this exhibition as well. And I like to explore different types of design ways that we can do to make our small space living better.
Sounds great. And if I think that I can learn from you or from a video how I can make my own furniture, that seems amazing as well. I think that many people would actually be, I'm talking to a lot of people who, as you mentioned now, we're sitting in front of our laptops, in front of our screens all day, or many of us. And many are actually craving for doing something with their hands again, and also producing something where they can see a visible outcome. And if there's a way that this can be made simple, that not all of us need to be experts in production of furniture, but there's a simpler way. That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, now you mentioned the 15 Seconds Festival, as you said, where we met, or where you gave a speech, a very nice speech, and I learned about Never Too Small, and I was immediately hooked by it. And I asked myself, so someone like you, who is from my perspective, a great visionary, right? So you have visions and you follow them, and you put all your ideas together and you create something new out of it. And now you're successful with it. So it seems like everything is, from the outside, it seems like everything is easy, right? And everything is just successful and happening for you. But how does it feel for you? Like, are there moments when it gets hard, or are there moments when you feel insecure about what's going to happen, or about your performance, stuff like that?
Yeah, I can put it in many ways. I think for me, I have the visions, and then, but most importantly, it was the Never Too Small families, our team members that put the ideas together, because without them, I can't really do a lot of things. I'm not a great writer, I'm not a great speaker, and I'm not really someone who's know how to deal with business. And but all their skills contribute to this vision to make it a reality. And also, in terms of preparing myself for the speech, it took me a while because it was my first public speaking. And I wrote so many different versions of that. I trying to simplify it again and again and again, because my ideas of whatever I do is I need to stand out, but at the same time, I need to simplify my ideas. And it's the same as the presentation. That's why in my presentation you saw I only use like one word and funny pictures, and then to get people engaged, it's the same. I think for me, I always stick to that, be the little red flower in the green foliage to stand out. And that one, because once you get people's even just a split seconds of attention, once they look at you, and then once you make it simple for them to understand, and that's when they can understand, they can get your message, what your message is. And those presentation that you saw, it took me quite a while to prepare and simplify. Simplification, I think, is the hardest process for anyone to do anything, because like earlier in the interview when I was nervous, I just keep blabbing, but I don't have a coherent, easily remembered punchlines that you can remember. But now I'm better composed, so I'm probably better now. And so yeah, I think preparations for public speaking is a must. And I keep practicing and practicing because English is not my first language. And it's funny, I speak about 7 different languages. And then I remember one of my team member, Elizabeth, asked me about my thinking, what language I think of. I say, I find it sometimes I have the ideas, but I find it hard to speak in English, because every time when I'm trying to do creative thinking, in my head, I speak different languages. Sometimes I speak Mandarin, sometimes I speak English, sometimes I speak Hokkien or Hakka, my native language. It depends on what I'm thinking. And I think that also play an important part of, I think it's let's say, if I want to talk about visual, think about visuals, I think in Mandarin. And then if I want to think about interview, I think in English. And then if I want to think about editing or telling stories, I think about in my Hakka, my native language. It's weird, or Hokkien, 2 of them combined together, because that's the most common language I used to communicate with my friends back when I was young, or with my family. So I used to talk to them in that way. I think that's probably why when I want to think about storytelling, I think in that language. And and well, when I think about processing and stuff like that, it's in English. I don't know why. And then that's why sometimes I want to get my ideas out vocally. It takes me a while to get it out, or my sentence was like overlapping each other, because all this I need to think. You need to go through double process to get it out. So for any kind of presentations or even anything like that, I have to write them down, and then I simplify them, and then I keep practicing and practicing. Like my partner say, I'm practicing more than I need to, but I just think when I was in shower, when I was on the plane, I took the notebook out and I just keep writing it. And then when we're walking, I just like keep reciting my speech. And but I think it pays off. I feel like it's not a perfect delivery, it's because I was nervous. And but I don't know, you guys probably think differently because you guys under the stage. But for me on the stage, I just feel like I stumble my words a lot. But at least people laugh at me. I think that's the best thing.
I don't remember you stumbling at all, to be honest. I thought it was an amazing speech, and as you said, uh, there were some aspects that immediately caught our attention, and you were also making us laugh, and this is not happening a lot in general. I think when people are on stage, I'm not criticizing anyone. I have never done that before, and it's super scary to me. And I think that it's an amazing job to go on stage at all, and then to be able to inspire people, at the same time make them laugh, at the same time encourage them. I mean, there are so many jobs to be done, right, at the same time. So I can completely understand that you're nervous, and I think it's great that you found your way of dealing with it. Because, I mean, in the end, if there is an insecurity, it's great that if we find a way how to deal with that, so that we can do it anyway.
I don't have a perfect way to deal with my insecurity. I just let it. That's my insecurity. That's it.
Right. That's true.
I don't think that I have a perfect way, because after the presentation, a couple of people come to me and say, "Oh, I can't believe your first time. How do you deal with the nerve?" I said, "I don't know." I just like spend more time preparing myself. And I have that. I think Tallulah, when she came to me, it took me about 3 months to work out what I want to say, to simplify it. But I also need to include my personal stories in there. And then I use it in a way like I introduce my mother, using my mother as a graft. And then also when I want to introduce when I'm from Malaysia, that's when I do it in the middle, when I'm saying something about I come to Australia, but deal with my accent.
Yeah.
So they're all very deliberate. I have to say everything is very deliberate. I'm not very impromptu person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then what about, because I said before, it seems like a super success story. And then,
It's not super success story.
yeah, what is your opinion on that? I mean, is there, how many times did you work on something that didn't work out that well?
Oh, more than you ever think of. I don't know. I don't see like success is a pinnacle or a peak. Success is very little. And for me, when for Never Too Small, I measure success in a different way with how people measure it. I don't measure it in numbers. I measure it in reaction. And then I measure success as in, when people say, "Oh, YouTube videos, you need to have millions of views or everyone likes it," that means it's success. But for me, when people react or audience react more negatively to a certain design, for me, it's a success, because my ultimate goal is to expose as many design for them. And then for Never Too Small, not every episode's got 1 million views. Some episodes that general audience kind of hate it. They say it looks like a gallery, or it looks like, it looks like a jail cell. But it was the ideas that we throw in their face. That's why they get their reaction. It's a bit like a piece of art, when people starting having conversation, when people have reaction to it, that's when, for me, the art works. And for me, also the design works. When audience don't like certain videos, when they reacting negatively, typing negative comments, for me, that is the point of the videos, to give them an idea that they never seen before, or it's out of their comfort zone. And also, I also like when people starting looking at design on the videos, and then they say, "Oh, I like the design, but if for me, I would change this sofa. I need a TV over there." That's because people starting imagining themselves living in that space. That's only when they start changing the things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it to suit themselves. That itself is a creative process. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit like when you're watching cooking videos, and then you might say, "Oh, I might replace onion with spring onion." For example, that's when you're starting to be creative in your head. And it's important I have the skills to make people to think differently, or I have a skill to tell the stories, and then through filmmaking, through video making, and that's where I can say I'm good at. But in terms of success, I measure success is little bits by little bits. And for us, Never Too Small, we have a Patreon page. For me, it's not a success, because I don't find that I'm very passionate about it. I don't find that people reacting or get involved with as much. And I find the exhibition we did was a success. We don't have thousands of people come for the exhibition. We have about 500 people comes, but out of the 500, my interaction with them face to face, and to hear them talking about what their thought is, what their ideas is. Some people come in and just tell me the ideas, without even looking at the exhibition. And for me, that's very precious. That's a success of the exhibition. And for people to come in and say, "Oh, why is the chair has no color?" And I have to explain to them, because, we're trying to give all this pretty basic looking, so people can apply their own ideas into that. They can improvise it. And for me, that's a success. Yeah, but I don't think that if I look at Never Too Small, is it a successful business? For me, it is, but some people saying, oh, it's not $1 million worth company, so it's not successful. It depends. And but I like to look at success as the little things along the way. Something fails, something success, And yeah, so for Never Too Small, we also have some many bad experimentation as well. It's part of it. We gain the experience and put it into something else in the future. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I don't like something, I will say it out loud in front of my team members.
Right.
I can be quite vocal with my dissatisfaction.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's very interesting to me, like this approach. And I mean, looking at success in different ways is definitely so important, right? When we think about our happiness and about how we go through life in general.
And earlier you talked about insecurity, right? Yeah, if you asked me to do public speaking 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I wouldn't agree to do it. But for Never Too Small, I kind of forced myself to step into outside my comfort zones, like interviewing people. I used to be always behind the camera, so interviewing people is a scary experience to me. But for Never Too Small, I, I push myself out there and ask people questions, and then I learned to ask simple question instead of the lengthy one, and I learned to listen more in my interview. And then I picked up that when I stopped giving feedback or stopped giving reactions to the interviewee, they tend to go deeper.
Right.
And yeah, and then this is all the things that I push myself out there, and then as I'm doing it, I pick up little things along the way. And when even the exhibition, I push myself out there to do the exhibition. And during the opening night, during the exhibition, I push myself out there to stand on the stage to thank people. And then the festival that we went to, I pushed myself out there to speak in front of people on the stage in a foreign country. Yeah, it's a nerve-breaking experience, but I guess the worst case scenario when it's really fucked, then just laugh at yourself in 3 years' time and looking back. Because I keep telling myself, if I stuff up the presentations, stuff up it completely so people remember me.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, right. Now, thank you for all of your stories, for all the insights that you have given. I would love to thank you for your work again. I think it's amazing what you do. And and for overcoming those insecurities and for stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Because in the end, it's so important that if people have ideas, and all of us do somehow, that we encourage ourselves and encourage each other to try and to do it so that we can make it happen. Otherwise, I wouldn't have learned about Never Too Small, and otherwise you wouldn't be here now. So and so many other great things that I'm hoping that happened after your speech at the festival.
So what's your insecurities then, Kirsten?
Sorry?
What's your insecurity?
What's my insecurity? Oh, wow. Yeah, so music is actually a great insecurity of mine. It's funny that you are actually the first person to ask me the question back on the podcast. And yeah, definitely. So I love music, and I have always loved to learn instruments, and I don't see myself playing in front of people, for example. So I consider myself not being able to play music. And I know that there's this limiting belief in that I'm carrying around with me. And it has probably also to do with the way that I learned it. But it carries out into many ways. So for example, if people ask me, do you know this singer-songwriter? And they tell me a name, I cannot remember most names. So my usual answer is no, I don't. And then I always feel bad. So it turned into me saying, I have no idea about music, which isn't really the case. But yeah, that's actually a big insecurity of mine, next to many others. I mean, yeah, there's so many things that that I would love to do, and then I'm super scared of them. And it's always for me about going like tiny steps forward, and then sometimes I go a big step back, so that I can feel more comfortable again. And then sometimes I try again. So for example, with this podcast, the first few interviews were super scary to me, and I was super nervous. And I'm so glad that now I feel a little bit more relaxed and I can trust my skills more. Yeah, but it's a process, right?
Yeah, and I guess I have the same problem as you are, because I'm not from the architecture background, and talking to architects or even interior designers, sometimes they say, oh, do you know that this house is designed by whoever architects, in the 18th century. Everybody don't know about him. I'm like, no, I don't, but can you tell me about him? And then they will let you know. Yeah. And then that's a skill I picked up. And because I interview a lot of designers, they would talk to me about the different ways of machine works, and also the different ways of certain software works and stuff like that. And I didn't get it what they were talking about. And then I usually ask them back the question, can you tell me how it works? Yeah.
Right.
And then in fact, I think that's the best way for me to learn about things, because even though I do a lot of, not a lot, but yeah, quite a lot of readings about design and stuff like that. But it's still the easiest way to learn is from when we're having conversation with them. And I thought you carry your interview really well and relaxing. You don't seem like you are struggling with questions and anything like that. And we are in a pretty much the same boat in a way, because we don't started out as someone studying mass communication in uni. We don't learn about how to interview people, but it's more like the skills that we pick up along the way, and then we just make it our own way. I think, yeah, it's the same as Never Too Small, because when I started Never Too Small, I know nothing about YouTube. I know nothing about how YouTube works and how to make a viral video. I used to watch YouTube. I just interpret the way I do it within myself. I thought, oh, I can do better than video than that. But then as I learned about YouTube now, they will talk about, oh, the title is important. The description is important. The thumbnails design is important. But back in the days, I didn't even think of all that. I just thought I want to do the videos I would like to watch myself. And then the thumbnails that I choose, they are totally against what the YouTube recommendation of how the thumbnail should be done. The titles I used to put is against of what the general YouTubers say you shouldn't do your title, because for Never Too Small, we put Never Too Small at the front, and then we describe the apartment. But for recommended how to make your YouTube videos viral, they would say, don't put your YouTube channel's name at the front. So we did the experimentation is to delete the Never Too Small word at the front, but we don't get a lot of views because people don't recognize us. And then so we have to put back now Never Too Small at the front, and then the description of the apartment. Even though that decision is made accumulatively, with more, what do you call it, democratically within Never Too Small team, but I would still love to put episode numbers on our videos. They don't have episode numbers now, because I find it a bit hard when you're having conversation with people. They will tell you, oh, the apartment I saw. And then, but if numbers, people used to tell me, oh, the episode 7 that you published recently is really good, or episode 24 is my favorite. People tend to remember easy things.
Sure.
And then, yeah, but it's hard. It's Never Too Small. It's sometimes I'm the creator, I'm the creative directors or the visionaries, but it's we run as a team. We vote about things, and then that's how we do it. And then because everyone is so important in Never Too Small, without the editors, it's not going to be the same. Without the the researcher or the producer, they're not going to be the same because each of them do so important works to make Never Too Small as it is today. Because it's my idea, it's my way of thinking, but the execution is the team. Yeah, it's a restaurant basically. I could be the chef, but I can't run the whole restaurant by myself.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hope I don't put you to sleep.
No, definitely not. I'm thinking a lot about what you're saying. Yeah. Thank you so much, Colin.
Thank
we
you.
have we have done a deep dive into back into your childhood and back into your studies up until now and your work today. And now I'm coming to my last question, and it consists of 3 parts actually. So, what is, in your opinion, your greatest personal strength? Is number 1. What is your biggest insecurity? Is number 2. And number 3 is what is the greatest superpower for us as a society for the world of tomorrow?
My greatest personal strengths. What's the word to describe it? Let me think about in English. Not explore, but being crazy, but not crazy. How do you call it? What's the word for it?
Okay, being crazy, being
Not crazy.
do you have the word in a different language in your head?
Yeah, I try to because I like to go to contemporary art gallery because they always show some crazy shit. I say a lot of shits in my life. A lot of crazy arts in there, you know. It's really open your eyes. Sometimes they just put a dirty cloth on the wall, but somehow it inspire me in a way that, you know, do things differently. Like recently I went to Tate Modern when I was in UK. Every time when I go to London, I must go to the gallery Tate Modern. And they show me they projected these videos on the wall. It's just this artist just putting different words on the wall. It doesn't even make sense, but somehow it inspired me to do the titling, the graphic design for my future documentary differently. Yeah, it's, what do you call that? It's like, I like crazy stuff, but they're somehow useful to me.
Yeah.
What's the word for it?
To be honest,
Not
I don't
explore.
know.
Open mind. Open mind.
Yeah, you could call it that, but I think that what you just described is more specific. And maybe this is something, if somebody who listens to the episode and can come up with a word, they should tell us. So let us know. Send us an email. Yeah, okay.
And the second security would be security would be my fear of talking to strangers. I still have to say that. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'm quite an introvert person. A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
Yeah. And I find that like now it's fine, but you know, when you just first came out from the Zoom, I get this nervousness. Like I keep telling myself, "Why are you nervous about?" You know, but I still do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And once we get to know each other, I can now talk to you crazy stuff.
Yeah, and still you agreed to do the interview.
Of course. Yeah. And the third one, for me, is inspiration. And I guess I feel like inspiration is what keeps us going in a positive way, because inspiration doesn't feel like you really need to solve a problem when it goes negative, things go bad. Inspiration is more like you see something and you want to do it nicer.
Great. Thank you for giving us that insight into your work. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's great talk. I hope I give you enough information. And
Definitely. Yeah, I'm sure that many people will be very inspired by your story and will be happy to have a look on the Never Too Small YouTube channel, and also look out for your book and for the documentary that's coming out by the end of the year. Thank you so much, Colin, for being here,
Thank
for taking
you.
the time. I wish you all the best for your journey, for Never Too Small, for the whole team, and for your life, basically.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Strong and Insecure, Stark und Unsicher with Colin Chee from Never Too Small. If you want to see how some of the greatest tiny houses in the world are built, come and visit us at colin.personalskilltree.com. There you can find a link to Colin's docu series and more information on tiny house projects all around the world. And if you're thinking about changing careers, but you're not sure where to go, then I would love to see you in one of my Soulful Job workshops where we can meet via Zoom. And if you would like to find out more about the workshops, just visit personalskilltree.com/English and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And now I wish you a wonderful time wherever you are and whatever you're doing. It's not too late. Yours, Kerstin.